Good morning, friends. Takeover community, sports card, hobby peeps. I just wanted to talk about something today that I actually talked about a little bit on Hives Cards podcast, and I can drop the link to that. But I also just wanted to expand on it on my own channel, and we talked a little bit about, like long-term holds versus day-to-day flips or weekly whatever things we're holding on to a little bit longer. And I was talking about this game I'm kind of playing with myself, and maybe it's not so much a game, but it's kind of a just looking at this thing that's happening and considering this thing that could happen. And that's the idea that we get so caught up in the shiny new draft class, myself included. It's so exciting when someone new is coming in and we have hopes, expectations, dreams for their performance, and we don't know what those will be. We don't know the ceiling yet. And we seem to do that year after year, and that causes really high prices on those cards. And once again, I'm someone included that does that, especially when my own favorite team drafts someone, they're going to be the best player ever, and I want to buy their cards, and there might be a bunch of other people that think the same, and the prices drive up. Now, the reality of that is generally a year passes, and even if that player has a really good first year, the prices at the end of the year, unless they just completely dominated a Super Bowl or NBA championship and were the MVP and set records and all that, tend to be lower than the price when they were drafted and the cards first came out. And that can be a bunch of different factors. It can be the excitement over it being their first cards. You have FOMO flowing through your veins. You want to be one of the first to get that guy. But there's always that cool down. Even if they won the championship, there's a cool down after that in the off season, and you're oftentimes able to once again buy that card at least slightly under what you got it when it first dropped. Now, I look at those guys, and it's not that I'm going to personally stop buying the ones I believe in or just want to personally collect for my PC. I might just delay that purchase a little bit if it's a PC item to see if I can get it cheaper. But oftentimes those guys are not going to be what we think they're going to be, what we have in our brains for them. It's very hard to be the next Tom Brady, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, enter whatever X name across the board you want to. So oftentimes in reality, they're going to be lucky to come even close to a guy who had a comparative playing style before that we saw happen. And that guy probably has rookie cards, maybe even autographs, maybe even low numbered stuff. I don't know. I guess there was weird numbering back in the 90s, 2000s when it did happen. That's why you saw a card that was like out of $23.99, things like that. But aside from that, the career that they would have would be, basically they'd be lucky to have this other guy's career who we don't really respect price-wise in the hobby, let's say. We might respect their play, their career, all of that. Like, take for example, okay, say there's I'm not even going to do a specific name for the rookie or the younger guy or the fresh new modern guy, but say that there's a guy who, he's got we'll go basketball, has pretty good ball handling, is a sharpshooter, can knock down the three, can do a pull-up jumper. And in our mind, they're like the next basketball god, right? So we go crazy. Their rookie drops. We see these numbers of like, oh my gosh, the rookie selling for $500. This autograph cracked 1,000, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And in reality, it's very possible that they would be lucky to have the career of, say, a Paul Pierce or a Ray Allen. And Paul Pierce and Ray Allen's prices don't even come close to touching what those are selling for. That makes me want to, within reasonable moves, focus on that guy that already did it, the guy that they'd be lucky to have the career of. Now, I'm not talking about just going all in and spending all my money there and dropping it all there, because there's factors surrounding just my opinion that come into play for if this can actually work. So this is me giving you brainstorming thoughts. This is me trying to get you to think differently, because when you think differently, it gets your mind, even if you don't think differently on this topic, even if you completely disagree with me, you can take this model and rethink certain things you're doing in other arenas, whether it be the hobby or just in life in general. But anyways, back to my little thought here. I might want to start looking at those guys like Ray, like Paul. Hive mentioned KG and Allen Iverson, which I think are great takes. Start saying, like, maybe if this guy's selling for this much, it doesn't make so much sense that this guy who already did it and probably did it will have done it better in his career is way down here. And consider the fact that it doesn't need to come all the way up here, but even if it came up to here, because maybe that pulled it up, because maybe we reflect on, oh, this guy plays like that guy, why is this guy selling for such a low price? And it involves other things too, right? Because you need other people to think that way. So if they don't, and I don't want to force people to think that way, basically you're still kind of at the mercy of the market, but it's still something to consider. It's something to get you thinking differently than maybe you were before. And another thing is, when you think about guys like the ones that Hive mentioned, say AI and KG, those are names that young kids still know. So like, think about this. Okay, maybe find like your 10-year-old cousin. Maybe your 10-year-old cousin likes sports. Ask them to name some of their favorite players right now, and then ask them to name some of the players that they think are like the greatest of all time. Now, they'll probably say things like Kobe, LeBron, maybe they'll say Michael Jordan. I don't know. The thing that's funny about Michael Jordan is he's an iconic figure, but I feel like there's already kind of a small batch of kids who see him the same way that maybe us kids growing up in the 80s and 90s saw, I don't know, like I respect Larry Bird. My dad loved Larry Bird. I understand he's an awesome shooter or whatever. However, I really didn't get to see him play. So I have a heavy respect for Bird while also not having the same excitement that someone that actually grew up in that era watching Bird did. But they might still mention guys like AI. They might mention Garnett, like Hive said. They might mention Ray Pierce. They might, there's other guys too. I'm just interested to see how this all plays out. Because there's so many times when I see a wild price on a new rookie, and I know that it's backed by hype, not knowing the ceiling, excitement, FOMO, first cards coming out. But it always turns my head towards being interested about the guys who already paved the way, who already did that before, and quite possibly and more realistically better than they will. It's just something to think about. I'm interested in your thoughts. Once again, I'm not trying to force you to think anyway. I'm just trying to encourage you to find ways you can model shifts in your thinking when you do the hobby, when you consider the things you buy, when you consider the things, specifically, I think from a flipping perspective, because if you want to collect something, just collect it. If it's within your means, just collect it. Don't use this model of like they have to be good. I collect guys who were not good all the time. Anything Ravens, doesn't matter if they were the guy that was on the practice squad. If they had a card made for him, I want it. I get that. But I just want you to think this way, and also encourage you to maybe pause at times, because when that FOMO gets flowing, like it's like a drug, like you do not want to miss out. And I think it also leads us to things like, we could get into things like sunken cost fallacy and other financial terms and things like that I won't dive deep into right now, but I think sometimes that can make us stubbornly hold on to a card we should have let go of, because we're so focused on the bounce back of that player, or we're so prideful with our take that selling the card feels like we are admitting to making a mistake or admitting to making bad plays, which the reality is we all make mistakes, we all make bad plays, we just all don't post it. We only post generally when we made the right play, when we made a huge flip, and then that's all you see. and then it gets vacuumed in, and then you start thinking internally about the way you do things and bash yourself. That's the truth right there. But I'm interested to hear what you think about all this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. Let me know if that's something you've used before as a model for your buying and flipping, or if it's something that you're interested in also doing and finding your own players that you consider. I think it's a cool little practice and a cool little experiment to do.